Do you want to feel loved? Do you want to feel cared for? Do you feel that you can get your needs met in a healthy way? Or do you live with anger, fear, and despair? Those are the questions that I asked myself for over 55 years because of being abused as a child. I was isolated and physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually abused the first 21 years of my life. I got married, left home, and decided to make a success of my life. So I started working in the mailroom of a Fortune 20 company. I had survived by splitting everything off, which is what a lot of survivors do. I worked hard, got married. Within 19 years, I was a strategic planner on the regional vice president's staff. I then found out my brother was sexually abusing my 4-year-old niece. All my memories came flooding back, but I confronted him because I was not going to allow that to continue. And I was instrumental in having him convicted as a child molester. And he got the usual slap on the wrist. He was convicted of 2 felonies of oral copulation with a minor, was not kicked out of the military, went to his job during the day, went to jail at night for a year, and that was it. I entered therapy and ended up spending 23 years in therapy from age 34 to 57 and went through 5 hospitalizations because I was suicidal. I had major depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and I had developed about 20 personalities, which is not uncommon, even though there's an organization out there that wants to disprove and put down people. It's now called dissociative identity disorder. I was blessed in that I had the best of care, which very few people get. But in the meantime, the Fortune 20 company fired me 2 years from retirement after working 28 years with no severance pay and no benefits, even though I had an outstanding performance appraisal. I filed a lawsuit in federal court and won. In the meantime, I kept working, and I spent 11 of those 23 years in therapy integrating all of those personalities into one. I am now working to help other survivors. I have a website, wearesurvivors.org, and I'm working to establish a safe haven for adult survivors so that they have a warm place to go and that they're welcome. Everything you all said today is absolutely correct. It's what we need. What we also need is, I believe you mentioned, Catherine, is some kind of screening mechanism for children to show that there is trauma. We screen for everything else, but we don't screen for trauma. We also need to eliminate the statute of limitations so that we can sue our perpetrators and get compensated. My mental health bills totaled over $300,000. This was in the 80s and 90s. You can imagine what it would be today. I spent $100,000 out of my pocket. How many people can afford that? They don't, so they don't get the care they need. The second thing is we need to strengthen the Americans with Disabilities Act. The Americans with Disabilities Act is great. However, its primary focus is on physical disabilities. Try getting a mental health disability accommodation. I'll give you an example. A woman has breast cancer. She goes into her supervisor and she says, I just found out I have breast cancer. I have to leave work 2 days a week to go to chemotherapy. I'll come in early on the rest of the week and make up for it. She'll get an accommodation, no questions asked. I come in. I've just found out I'm diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I have to go to therapy 2 days a week, but I'll come in early the rest of the week and make up for it. You won't get an accommodation. Most survivors are put on an action plan, they're reduced to part-time work, and they eventually lose their job and any health care that they had. Those are some of the main things that need to be addressed. I appreciate the opportunity, Helga. Thank you very much.